circle. First of all, don't fall in this hole, okay? As everyone knows, we are underground here, okay? The water comes in with a rain event. This needs to get evacuated. You've got 2 sump pumps. They're going to pump that out.
You added the second one?
Looks like you got 1 and 2, so that's a good thing.
So, I swore it was only one, but
I believe this was the original one, and that one, I can't remember.
looks like something was added.
Either way, but it's not a bad thing.
Oh, no, that's great. Redundancy is always good.
Exactly. Moving around the corner, we can have a heater. Okay. Coming back this line here, we're going to not talk about this yet. We're going to talk about the incoming water here. On any fire pump, generally how to figure out where the suction is just by looking at it. You're going to see one of these guys, outside stem and yellow, OS and Y. You will not see one of these before a fire pump. Okay. Reason is because this is a butterfly valve. Theoretically, this butterfly can come off, break off, whatever, go into the pump and drop off the pump. This guy here has that big gate. If that breaks off, it's pretty obvious, you know, and just the whole thing drops down and will not go forward.
That's your main in.
That's the main in coming in from the tank right here. All right, coming around right before that, though, where he's standing, that little line back there, that is your jockey truck. Right. Okay. Better name for that is pressure maintenance pump. The reason we call it a jockey is it rides on top of the main pump. It's little tiny pump on a boat, a little tiny pump, but same idea for any bigger than much bigger or whatever. But the idea of the jockey pump is to keep the pressure up, take care of any nuisance leaks, any atmospheric changes, temperature changes, you know, because obviously when it gets hot, things expand, when it's cold, they contract. We don't want this one to start unless there's an actual fire or an event where you need the water. Okay, so the jockey pump's just going to keep that pressure up, keep this guy from starting as long as it can. If the head activates, someone pulls water, it's not going to keep up. It's not his job. Moving along in the circle here, we've got our main fire pump. Okay, you will notice a suction gauge. These are always a vacuum. Okay, so a compound gauge and a discharge gauge. Other items of note are our drip cups. Okay. They are, fire pumps always use packing. We're not allowed to use mechanical seal like a jockey pump, like an HVAC pump, etc., etc. Main reason is if the packing starts failing, it just gets wetter. If the mechanical seal fails, it goes like a sieve. So we want to keep, if it's wetter, that's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. It's going to get messy. But it will still keep fighting fire. Occasionally, you will have to adjust. There's a gland. If you want to clean up the film here, I got light. You know, like better than me. Coming this side here, you can see the packing gland. I'll twist you. Right there, that is the packing gland right here. All this guy. Notice there's an adjustment there. Okay, you tighten this down to push more pressure on the packing as it wears out over time and slows down your drip rate. That should always be adjusted when running, and it should be adjusted evenly. So you're going to tighten this side a little bit, never a lot. Okay, just a little 16th of a turn or just a little scoop, and do that same amount on the other side. What you want to avoid, you know, because you've got 2 pins pushing down, what you want to avoid is cranking down on one side and angling that gland, so you're making it even worse.
Right.
The newer glands are stainless, so they don't bend. The older ones were brass or bronze, so you can bend the ears, screw them up, and just, it doesn't work. It makes actually everything worse, but then it screws the packing up, and you put too much pressure on one side, and you kind of oval that, and then you're pulling the whole thing apart and redoing it. Not fun.
No, I get it.
Next item of note is coming out of the discharge side of the pump. We have this guy. Notice this is called the casing relief valve. Notice it is before the system check valve. Main point of this valve is that a fire pump typically runs and doesn't flow any water. It's running for its monthly testing for 10 minutes, but there's no water needed. The energy, however, has to go somewhere. The energy goes into friction. Friction makes heat. And within a short period of time, you can actually boil off the water in this casing because of that friction. Now, if we let the pressurized water off on the discharge side, that's going to be the hot water, okay? Then we're letting cool water come in from the tank. That's going to keep this thing nice and happy. So anytime this pump is running and not pushing water somewhere, not using the flow meter loop, which we'll get to, we want to make sure water's coming out of this guy and go into the drain. Pretty easy little visual thing you can see. Okay, moving off. After that check valve, we come into our system C, going up to the flow meter. Okay, this slide goes out to your system, and the jockey comes in after this valve here. So if you had to do some work on the fire pit that it was down or what have you, you can still leave your system pressurized by shutting that OS and Y and shutting this valve here. Okay, that would isolate this fire pump, and you can do whatever you want in between, maintain the check valve, swap applications.
Everything between those two valves
this
is
valve and
safe
OS
for
and Y is safe to work on, and the system staying pressurized, which is great because then you can save a lot of time at the end of the day. You're going to drain down the entire system.
Okay. Now what do we got here?
Getting there.
Okay.
Don't jump ahead. Discharge side of the jockey's back there. I did want to mention one thing on the jockey. If we ever pull water out of this thing, as it is a mechanical seal, there is a high point of about right here. Okay.
So that one has a mechanical seal.
This one is a mechanical seal, correct. And as long as that seal stays wet, it's going to work great. If it gets an air pocket in there, it's going to get hot. So this is a bleed screw here. You open this guy up, it's got a little bleeder, actually comes out this way, and it'll pee off any water or air real quick, just bleed that off and then shut it. It takes a couple seconds really. But that's one thing that's going to make this happy, is not having that air there, because the air can't cool it, the water does cool it. Okay. All right, so moving around here, go back to this valve, this arrangement. So annually, fire pumps are supposed to be tested.
Yep.
There's a couple different ways to do it. Here, there's really not a great spot to put a test header up top because we're all underground here. They didn't want to have one just sitting up there, so we're worried about someone hitting by a truck or whatever. So here's our valve right here. So we just connect the hose to this, and up we go, and put it to the truck and whatever, and we spray it and do the things you need to do.
Sounds good.
The reason the tape is here, I think, is somebody bumped their head. The other way of testing, of course, is by using the flow meter, okay? And that's just going to recirculate water to the tank. Because this one actually here brings the water and you can see it. This one here you really can't see it unless you poke your head in the tank somehow. Okay. And then we'll move on to these two big red boxes of fun over here. So this guy here is the controller for the jockey pump. It's automatic, or you can make it go in hand. Okay. If it runs in auto, the light's going to light up. Okay. If you want to see what the pressure starts and stops at, you see here it's a stop, it's green light. That's your start. It's going to be your red light. If you're in between the two, it's a yellow light. I can show you that right here.
So green is start, red is stop.
Green is above pressurized, or and yellow is between, and red is start. So if you watch it as it bleeds,
Red starts.
you'll watch it kind of bleed it down. It's yellow now, and keep coming down, and it'll start at 80. Eventually. Not too fast. And there you go. There we go.
Hey, I noticed a great thing. The floor sloped correctly.
It's amazing achievement.
Little victories.
Here it comes. Get ready. Okay, see that light came on in auto?
Yep.
Okay. We have a green light here. Green is good. Red is bad. If it's in off mode, it's going to tell you by the red light and say, hey, look,
All right,
we're
it's
off.
flashing. We're on
Right?
there. Something's
Yeah.
wrong. Where do you turn it back on?
Just hold the button.
Hold the button again.
Yep.
So
Both of these controllers, they're in the O&M, the manuals. There's also websites you can grab it on, very easily done.
I have a good screen guy. I have a good
Exactly.
screen guy.
You can also do your QR code on this thing,
Okay.
which is awesome. And if you ever have a question, you just email or call us. No big deal.
Right on. Okay.
Email who?
The Brown Company or Newmore. Either way, they'll help you out. So the main big red box in the room, this is our fire pump controller and transfer switch. So we are connected to a generator here. We have backup power. Notice the screen is dim now because they're trying to save the screen's lifetime. We just tap it, it wakes up. So we've got a ton of information on this screen. Number first of all, the buttons. We're gonna have a start button, a stop button, a test the transfer switch button, and a test the pump button. I don't recommend using this one because it's a little tiny solenoid valve in here that bleeds water off. Little tiny solenoid valves are great. However, if there's any bit of dirt, debris, sand, rock, whatever, it's gonna get stuck in that valve and drip. It's gonna make everyone's annoyed. So if you just drop pressure here to start it, that's a much easier way to do it. We are on test, you know. Is the system on test, Fritz? Can you ask if we can, because I'd like to start it and show these guys.
So this will trip the fire alarm as well when it goes
Not
on?
an alarm, it'll send a pump run.
Pump running?
Yeah,
Okay.
which could be supervisory or it could be a roll trucks. Good thing here is the roll trucks is not very far.
Yeah.
No.
And there's nowhere to charge for gate time and temperature, which is great. And then we've got the incoming power voltage. We have the little dot showing we're connected. We have a green line showing this is where we're connected through. And if we were running the motor, we'll see the amp loads here, okay? You also have this chart here, which shows you your start pressure is 70, stop pressure is 80, which is obviously 10 pounds lower ting the jockey pump, giving a nice little buffer zone before the fire pump kicks on. You can see here that it's an automatic controller. It's actuated by pressure and it's set for automatic shutdown, which means if the pump runs, as long as it satisfies the stop pressure of 80 PSI for 10 minutes straight, it will turn itself off. That can be changed some places like manual stop, but in this case they elected for automatic. That can be changed anytime, just whatever your preference is. The other feature this thing has that's really super nice is if you open this guy, you've got a USB slot. Okay, so if you ever have any issues, any trouble, hey, something went wrong with the pump, we don't know what happened, you know, we're happy to do troubleshooting. If you get emails, those files just over the phone very easily, no charge, that kind of stuff. If we have to come out and get it, obviously, then that's a labor charge we've got to send somebody to get out here. But, you know, if you call and say, hey, my pump ran, I don't know why, can you look at the data and tell me? I can walk anyone through how to get the data out. It's very simple. You know, just go to the menu, go into the download and history, and you can just download right here. Because there's a USB stick shoved in, it will show the USB stick. You just tap it and download it. Very, very simple. It also has an embedded manual in here, so if you ever want to download a manual, the manual is for this controller on the day it was made. So if anything comes out that supersedes that, it doesn't matter. It's only going to be for this one. So there's a USB stick right there. The other thing that's nice about this controller is if it's in alarm or trouble mode, it'll flash yellow or red. So then it'll also go to the alarm page and it will show you what's going on here, what things have happened. You can see back in August we had a power loss, in February we had an unbalanced phase, and then in January we had a power loss as well, a reset those. But that's nice because it's going to show you that. The other thing we haven't mentioned yet is there is a transfer switch in here that's going to run this off the big gen set outside. In the event of a power failure, which happens up here quite often, you still have a fire pump, you still have fire protection, you're going to have this guy basically automatically transfer onto start the generator, and then once it sees the voltage is stable, it'll transfer to the generator. Once it does that, these reds will go green. It'll wait a couple seconds to make sure it's stable. It'll do that little motor noise where it goes over, and then it'll connect to this side. Once normal power is restored, it's going to wait for 5 minutes to make sure it's stable, not like a brownout condition. And then it's going to reconnect as long as the pump isn't running. If the pump is running, it thinks it's fighting a fire, so it's not going to disconnect when it's actively running. If it's on call. If it's already stopped, it's good to go. Okay. So that's pretty much it, except for showing you how to run the pump and see how noisy it is, and that's about it, really.
What's that? The screen?
Yeah.
Is it dead?
I think so.
That's the heater.
Looks fancy though.
That's the control for the heater.
Okay.
Okay, you can watch it come down just like before. There's no real need to run the generator because you know it works before. You can see it coming down. Yes, right there. It's kind of, do me a favor, turn that jockey pump, just turn it off so it doesn't make a bit glare for me. Just the red handle on the jockey pump control right there. Just click that off. Yeah, just turn it off. I don't want that starting it because it'll repressurize here. So watch it come down. Get to 70, we're going to start. You can see now it goes slow.
Oh man,
So you can see here the voltage of the amps. We've got the run timer, how long it's been running. You can see this is the run period timer. It's counting down from that 10 minutes. Obviously right now we don't need to wait. We're going to stop it. Run period timer goes away. Everything's good. It's back to normal. We'll probably have to either reset.
how often does this have to be done?
There's no code requirement for that.
But
You're gonna know if that one doesn't work pretty quick because it's gonna.
that one should be done monthly?
Monthly, yeah, and it should be done by someone with a Type L license.
That's what I thought. Unfortunately, I think only Jim has one, and he's retiring soon.
Type what?
Type L.
Type L, Larry.
Type L?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, it's either that or we're gonna have to get a service provider. Yeah.
Anyone have any questions before we jump out of the hole?
Okay. What's the warranty on that?
Oh, fine, I didn't put it in.
Pardon me?
I said, heck if I know, I didn't put it in.
Okay.
That would be a